What does he do? Does he go after Blackbeard, or does he just is he just like, oh well, Sakazuki, I guess you're enough. Like that? Does he just go like, well, Kaido, well, Whitebeard's dead. Well, Garp, I guess I got a box with you, bro. It's probably what he would do, you know. Yo, we got a One Piece what if video. What if Shanks failed to stop Kaido from going to Marineford, and Kaido showed up instead? And you know Kaido, he likes to get it on. He likes to box. He likes to, flex his muscle and all that shit. And he's about that action. He's about that negativity. So, he probably... a lot of people would have died. I ain't gonna lie. A lot of people would have died. He probably would have ended up dying. I'm not sure. I mean, if all the admirals jumped him, would he have survived? I'm not sure.
One of the reasons the Marineford War didn't spiral even further out of control was because Shanks stopped Kaido from joining the battle. But what if Shanks failed? What if Kaido actually showed up at Marineford? Well, Luffy, battered and bruised, charged through the war zone with one goal, saving Ace. The execution platform was in sight, and nothing could stop him now. Not even Garp. With help from Mr. Three's wax, Ace's sea-stone cuffs were broken, and he was finally free. The brothers fought their way out, but their escape was cut short by Sakazuki. Provoked into a fight, Ace clashed with the Admiral in a fiery showdown, but the magma's fury was overwhelming. Just as Sakazuki went to strike Luffy, Ace rushed in. But before the fatal blow could land, a thunderous roar echoed overhead. A massive shadow covered the battlefield. An azure dragon wreathed in flames descended. Kaido had arrived. Kaido changed his form in the sky and fell down like a meteor, right in the middle of the battlefield. The impact of his landing sent shockwaves rippling through Marineford. His deep voice boomed out as he called out for Whitebeard, and everyone froze from looking at the huge presence. Their battles were momentary.
So, when Kaido finds out Whitebeard already got slimed, right? Well, what does he do? Does he go after Blackbeard, or is he just like, oh well, Sakazuki, I guess you're enough? Like, does he just go like, well, Kaido, well, Whitebeard's dead. Well, Garp, I guess I got a box with you, bro. That's probably what he would do. He's got to box somebody. I think Mihawk was still there, so he might end up fighting Mihawk, bro. And Mihawk could be a fraud, so who knows?
Forgotten in the face of the world's strongest creature. The admirals moved immediately. Kuzan was the first to strike. With a burst of speed, he shot forward, his arms outstretched as an arctic chill spread from his fingertips. Ice bloomed across the battlefield, racing toward Kaido's massive form, threatening to encase the dragon in an impenetrable glacier. The frozen wave surged up Kaido's scales, locking his lower body in ice. For a brief moment, silence hung in the air. Then, a monstrous pulse of Conqueror's haki erupted from Kaido's body. The sheer force shattered the ice instantly, sending razor-sharp shards flying in all directions. Kuzan barely had time to react before Kaido's tail lashed out, moving with the speed of a meteor. The impact sent the Admiral hurtling across the battlefield, crashing through a marine tower that collapsed under the force. Kizaru was the next Admiral to strike at Kaido. He phased in.
So does Kaido solo the Admirals? Is that what he's trying to say? I don't think Kaido would solo the Admirals. If it's all three of them jumping him, I feel like he'll lose eventually. Because Kaido lost to... he really never got a 1v1 in Wano. But regardless, like, three Admirals jumping Kaido, I feel like he's gonna go down eventually. Now, it might be extreme dip. Well, I don't know if it's extreme dip, though. All three? But, I mean, at this point, though, Sakazuki's already kind of fucked up. Like, Whitebeard kind of beat the shit out of Sakazuki before he died. And then, Kizaru and Kuzan were just chilling, kind of. Like, they weren't really doing nothing for real.
To light and came at Kaido with blinding speed. It took him less than a fraction of a second to appear above Kaido's head and drive his kick into it like a hammer. There was a huge explosion of light like a supernova had just detonated, but Kaido barely flinched. He grabbed Kizaru's leg and smashed him down into the ground before transforming his head into a dragon's. A beam of condensed heat and raw power erupted from Kaido's mouth. It tore through the battlefield, engulfing Kizaru in its wake. The Admiral barely managed to react, phasing into light to avoid being incinerated, but the devastation was already done. The beam carved carved a molten scar through Marineford, obliterating everything in its path and setting the ground on fire. There was only one person who was taking advantage of this situation, and that was Whitebeard. With a thunderous step, Whitebeard
this is
closed the
before
distance
Whitebeard
between
was
him
dead?
and Sakazuki and stood over him in a rage. The very air around his knuckles distorted as he unleashed his power, and in the next instant, Sakazuki was gone. The sheer force of Whitebeard's punch sent him
Whitebeard
flying into the depths of
slimed
Marineford and
Sakazuki?
buried him beneath the stones of Marineford. The very foundation of the island cracked because of the impact of Whitebeard's punch. Seeing Ace, Whitebeard quickly embraced him, his fatherly instincts taking over. He gave Luffy a hug too for helping free Ace, but they weren't out of the woods yet, and the war was far from over. As the dust settled, Kaido stepped forward as his monster.
But would have Kaido gotten there before Shanks did? Because this is assuming Kaido got here before Shanks got there. Because Shanks got there after Whitebeard and Ace already got slimed. So, like, I mean, I guess, like, maybe Kaido would have been like, nah, but Shanks still was in a hurry, though. I don't know.
Monstrous head shrank back to normal size and carried his club on his shoulder. Kaido locked eyes with Whitebeard with a wide grin. Two monsters stood face to face. Whitebeard's massive frame loomed over the battlefield, his breath steady but heavy. He had gone through way too many injuries during this war, and it was showing. But his eyes did not lose their ferocity. His Basento rested on the ground beside him, his knuckles cracked from the force of his own quake-infused blows. Kaido studied him for a long moment, his golden eyes narrowing and his grin slowly fading. The world's strongest man stood before him, yet something was wrong. His hockey, while still huge, looked like it was flickering. The power was there, but Whitebeard seemed older and tired. Kaido clenched his teeth. This wasn't the Whitebeard he wanted to fight. The realization sent a wave of anger surging through Kaido's body. His fists tightened around his kanabo. The thought of Whitebeard losing to the Marines, of being brought to his knees by these so-called warriors of justice, made him extremely angry. He couldn't contain the anger, and with a sudden burst of speed that was unnatural for his size, Kaido lunged forward. His kanabo, wreathed in black lightning, swung through the air like a comet. Whitebeard, despite his wounds, raised his Basento, intercepting the strike. The moment their weapons clashed, the battlefield trembled beneath them. The sheer impact split the very air, sending shockwaves rippling outward. The Conqueror's haki, which erupted like a volcano, caused the clouds to split apart. Nearby, Marines and pirates collapsed instantly, unconscious before they could even understand what had happened. The ground beneath their feet cracked, splintering under the force of two titans. Whitebeard's grip tightened on his Basento as he pushed back against Kaido, but Kaido was relentless because of his rage and kept swinging and swinging. He then aimed a bit lower. Whitebeard barely had time to react before the spiked club crashed against his ribs. The sickening crack of bones echoed across Marineford, but he didn't fall.
Now, this is 1000% gonna end up in a death by, like, Whitebeard's gonna lose. To, like, if Kaido showed up to specifically fight Whitebeard, Whitebeard would have died to Kaido, because, you know, it was an old Whitebeard who had just been, like, trying to solo the Marines this whole fight against a Kaido who's kind of like in his prime. Not really in his prime, but, like, he's kind of in his prime. Way more close to his prime than Whitebeard was. And so, but then if he kills Whitebeard, does Blackbeard get the chance to, you know, take his devil fruit? Does Kaido allow that? Because Kaido might see Blackbeard pull up and be like, oh, I want smoke for you too. But like Sakazuki and the Marines, they didn't really give a fuck because Blackbeard was on their side. So, like, you feel me?
Whitebeard staggered back and his knees remained locked, but blood dripped from his lips and his breath was ragged. But despite all that, he stood tall and glared at Kaido. Kaido gritted his teeth. He was faster, stronger, fresher, and yet Whitebeard refused to fall. Ace saw all this and he realized that Whitebeard was simply keeping Kaido at bay. He couldn't watch anymore. Determined, he surged forward, flames roaring to life around his fists. But just as he prepared to join the fight, Whitebeard turned his head slightly and his look was all it took to completely stop Ace in his tracks. Ace's fists trembled, but he knew that Whitebeard was right. This entire war was for him, and so many people had sacrificed their lives for him. He had to survive to make sure their deaths had some meaning. He had to escape with his brother. His flames flickered as he turned back to Luffy, grabbing his brother's arm. Luffy was reluctant, but he could see the pain in Ace's eyes. Together, they retreated, slipping into the chaos of battle. Whitebeard had made his choice. Now, they had to honor it. Back on the battlefield, Whitebeard's breathing grew heavier. The pain in his body was mounting, his limbs sluggish. Kaido watched him carefully. The mighty pirate, the man who once stood equal to Roger, was reaching his limit. Kaido took a step forward, ready to deliver the final blow, but suddenly he stopped. Something Nothing in Whitebeard's stance made him hesitate. Despite everything, despite the wounds, the blood loss, the relentless battle, Whitebeard still refused to kneel. Even at the edge of death, he stood tall and unyielding. Kaido exhaled sharply and took a step back. His anger wasn't going down at all, but he shifted his focus to the Marines who had tried to strike Whitebeard down. And now they would face his wrath. At that moment, a dark figure landed beside him. King, the right hand of Kaido, stood tall.
No, I'm not gonna lie. Kaido is not gonna jump Whitebeard with King and Queen. King, like, what is King really gonna do? Fight Marco, I guess. Cause Marco's stronger than King. If we're being real, Marco's stronger than King, or at least, Marco's stronger than King. Cause Marco was able to hold King and Queen basically in fucking in 2 headlocks at the same time. He wasn't really beating them, but he was just holding them back. And Marco clashed with admirals. I'm feeling I don't think King can hang with an admiral for real. I don't think so. Okay, I think he can hang. I don't think he can beat an admiral. So he'd really just be fighting Kuzan or Kizaru in a losing effort for real. Same with Queen.
Black wings stretching out behind him, and on the horizon, the looming silhouette of the Beast Pirates' flagship cut through the mist, its crew pouring onto the battlefield. Kaido ordered King to destroy the Marines. Kaido turned his attention toward the admirals. His fingers flexed around his kanabo, his anger finding a new target. Kuzan, now recovered from the earlier exchange, reacted first. A wall of ice shot up, aiming to slow Kaido's advance, but the Dragon Man tore through it effortlessly.
Man, where's Mihawk? Mihawk, do something. You're a warlord for a reason. You only left before because you didn't agree to fight Shanks. What about Kaido? He probably would have left too, I'm being real. He probably would have left too.
Shattering it with a single swing of his club. Kizaru appeared above him, beams of light gathering at his fingertips, but Kaido swatted him away like an insect, sending the Admiral spiraling through the air. Then came Kizaru. Kaido's glare locked onto the Admiral, his body radiating with light. As chaos erupted once more, Whitebeard stood alone amidst the storm. His gaze drifted to the sea where his sons were making their escape. A small, almost imperceptible smile tugged at the corner of his lips. But his moment of peace was short-lived as the air behind him shifted. A slow, mocking laugh slithered through the air as an ominous presence emerged from the shadows. Blackbeard.
See, the way they wrote this, it makes a little sense. If Kaido was getting distracted by the admirals, then the Blackbeard pirates jumping Whitebeard and stealing the Dead Fruit makes more sense. Yeah, because I don't think King or Queen or the Beast Pirates really care what the fuck they got going on. I wholeheartedly think Kaido wouldn't let Blackbeard do whatever he's doing because he would want to box with Blackbeard and their crew. So
His crew surrounded him, their weapons drawn, their expressions twisted with anticipation. Teach stepped forward, his body exuding an unnatural black mist. His grin widened as he watched the weakened Whitebeard stand alone. A torrent of darkness exploded forward and wrapped all around Whitebeard's body. The old man bashed his Basento into the ground as the gravity-like horse pulled at him, sapping his strength. His Basento fell from his grasp, embedding itself into the ground. Teach moved quickly and slammed a fist covered with darkness into his chest, while everyone else bombarded Whitebeard with attacks. But Whitebeard, even now, refused to fall. He gathered his strength once again with a roar and swung, but Blackbeard was ready. Darkness devoured the attack, neutralizing the Quake's force before it could fully manifest. Another punch followed, then another. The attacks rained down mercilessly, tearing into Whitebeard's body. There was blood everywhere, and Whitebeard's massive form wavered. Blackbeard's laughter echoed across Marineford as he raised his arms in triumph. His darkness expanded, creeping toward the fallen Titan. Then, Blackbeard used his power with a twisted grin, and somehow he took away Whitebeard's power while he was still standing, the light gone from his eyes. The very air trembled as fractures spread across the sky, the lingering echoes of Whitebeard's power now in Blackbeard's grasp. Every pirate, marine, and warlord turned their gaze toward the legend, his titanic frame resting upon the ruins of Marineford. His final breath had passed, but even in death he remained unbroken. Kaido's body stiffened as he saw Whitebeard. He wanted to clash with Whitebeard at his strongest to finally die, but now that chance had been stolen from him. The sight of Blackbeard standing in front of Whitebeard's lifeless body, grinning like a madman, sent a shockwave of pure, unfiltered rage through him. His fingers tightened around his kanabo, his teeth.
I can't even lie to you. Blackbeard at this time, like the Blackbeard pirates, they're getting soloed by Kaido. Like, they're like, Kaido, bro, Magellan literally soloed these niggas. Magellan literally sold them the arc before, bro. And like in story, I'm pretty sure it was like literally 2 days before that. So like, yeah, like it's a whole crew, But it's Kaido. Kaido compared to Magellan, Kaido soloing them even with whatever Blackbeard got. Now they'll probably just escape. Like they probably will get away from Blackbeard or for Kaido. But like, come on, bro. Like,
Ground against each other. His entire body tensed as an overwhelming surge of bloodlust exploded from within him. Then, with an ear-splitting roar, Kaido transformed. His body expanded, muscles bulging as his hybrid form took shape. His dragon scales gleamed under the fractured sky. His horns elongated and his fangs grew sharper. Electricity crackled around him as black lightning coursed through his Kanabo. His presence alone sent tremors through the battlefield, shaking the very foundation of Marineford. With a single step, he vanished. A burst of wind followed in his wake as Kaido reappeared, his Kanabo already mid-swing. Jesus Burgess, the first to react, leaped in front of his captain, his muscles flexing as he prepared to block the attack, but he stood absolutely no chance. There was a loud crack as the Thunder Bagua connected, and Burgess's body seemed to warp. His bones shattered immediately, and he was launched across the battlefield like a broken doll. His body skidded across the ruins before crashing into a pile of rubble, unmoving. Kaido didn't even look at him. He was locked onto Blackbeard. Teach barely had time to react as Kaido's next strike bore down on him. Instinctively, Blackbeard thrust his hand forward, releasing a massive shockwave from his newly stolen Gura Gura no Mi. The earth itself quaked as the air fractured, a dome of destructive force expanding outward. Kaido roared and stomped into the ground before pushing forward. His Kanabo was smashed against Blackbeard's power. The force was immense, splitting the ground beneath his feet. The Blackbeard pirates leaped into action. Van Augur raised his rifle, aiming for Kaido's exposed flank. Shiryu, now wielding his invisible blade, moved to strike from the shadows. Lafitte and the others circled, preparing to counter. Kaido didn't care at all. With a swing of his Kanabo, black lightning erupted around him, knocking Augur's bullet off course and sending the sniper stumbling back. Shiryu's blade met Kaido's arm, but the dragon's scales absorbed the impact, leaving only a faint scratch. Blackbeard's grin faltered as Kaido closed the distance again. Panic flickered in his eyes as he activated his Yami Yami no Mi, the darkness surging forward, tendrils latching onto Kaido's body, pulling him in. The gravity forced Kaido's movements to slow, his strength seemingly being sapped away. For a brief second, Blackbeard's confidence returned as his black mist crept over Kaido's frame, drowning him in an abyss of nothingness. Black lightning crackled violently around Kaido's body. His advanced Conqueror's haki exploded outward, tearing through the darkness like a raging storm. The sheer force shattered the Yami.
do y'all think that Blackbeard has Conqueror's haki? Because I'm be real, we've only seen him use armor. Yeah, we've seen him use haki before, but like, does he have Conqueror's haki? And now a lot of people are like, "Oh, Conqueror's haki is genetic, so he gotta have it because Rocks had it." And like, I guess like Conqueror's haki, like, but like, is it really genetic, or is it just like, oh, it's a family, like it's a family trait to be a conqueror? You feel me? Like, Big Mom had it, Katakuri has it, majority of her kids don't. Garp has it, Dragon probably has it, Luffy has it. What else? Roger has it. Ace had it. Shanks has it. Shamrock has it. We don't know for a fact if Garling has it or not, because it was stated that the by what, who said it? Scopper Gabon. Gabon was like, the God's Knights that came for us, none of them had Conqueror's haki, so it was kind of easy to just beat their ass. But that doesn't mean that Garling ever came after the Rocks Pirates. So, but like, still, Garling might not have Conqueror's haki. He might not have it. So it's like, it's weird. Is Conqueror's haki genetic, or is it just so happens that having the mindset of being a conqueror is genetic, therefore having Conqueror's haki is genetic? You feel me? I would like to say it's not, because I feel like anyone can be a conqueror. You don't have to come from like bloodlines. It just so happens that a lot of like great pirates have great pirates for parents. You feel me? But yeah, I don't know. The way he moves, the way Blackbeard moves, makes me think there's argument for both. Because we know the reason he's doing what he's doing, and that's like very ambitious. But the way he does things makes it me think that he doesn't have Conqueror's haki. Just the way he snakes and, backstabs and all that shit. You feel me? And like the slimy shit he does. You feel me?
Yami's grasp, dispelling the black mist around him. Blackbeard's eyes widened in horror. Before he could react, Kaido's Kanabo crashed into his ribs and made a cataclysmic impact. Teach was sent flying through multiple buildings before he slammed into the remnants of Marine HQ. Dust and rubble erupted into the air as the ground beneath the impact cratered inward. The remaining Blackbeard pirates hesitated, their eyes darting between Kaido and the ruins where
Bro,
their
they can't do nothing
and
against
then
Kaido.
suddenly, a new presence arrived. A deep crimson aura spread across Marineford as a crew
Shanks
stepped
pulled
onto
up?
the battlefield. It was none other than the red-haired pirates led by Shanks. His crimson cape billowed behind him, his hand resting on the hilt of
Cape is
Gryphon, and
not
he looked across
crimson,
the
it's
battlefield.
black.
But the weight of his presence alone was enough to halt every ongoing battle. Kaido turned, his rage-filled eyes locking onto the newcomer. To get everyone's attention, Shanks unleashed his haki. Kaido's grip on his Kanabo tightened, but he didn't move. He knew that this meant the battle had reached its end. Taking advantage of the momentary distraction, the remaining Blackbeard pirates scrambled toward their unconscious captain. Van Augur, barely able to stand, teleported to Blackbeard's side and, with a flicker of his ability, vanished along with him. The rest of the crew followed, escaping Marineford before...
We don't know if Augur had his devil fruit by this point. We don't know if Jesus Burgess had his fruit by this point either. But I guess it doesn't really matter. Like, it really doesn't
Kaido
matter.
could finish what he started. The war was over. Kaido exhaled, his rage still simmering beneath the surface. But he knew there was no point in pursuing them now. His gaze flickered to Whitebeard's lifeless body one last time before turning away. The world had changed. The War of Marineford had finally ended, and the loss to the world was more than it could deal with.
Did Sakazuki die? I mean, I'd be cool with that. Fuck Sakazuki,
was
man.
dead,
Fuck that guy.
Marineford was in ruins, and the Marines had lost more than just Ace as the balance of power in the world changed so suddenly. But Whitebeard...
Oh, Burgess died? Dang.
Unpredictable weather and no mercy. Ace's
But yeah,
flames burned
Luffy,
hotter than ever. No
Ace and
longer
Luffy
wild and
joins.
unrefined.
He
learned
joins.
how to condense his
Ace
fire to
joins
control it
Luffy
with
on
precision, to
Ruskaina,
burn without wasting an
and
ounce
you
of
know I
energy.
called it.
Trained his
He gets
observation
off
haki
of
to
it.
predict movement
He gets
with deadly
Conqueror's
accuracy, and his
haki,
armament
advanced
haki to
Conqueror's
strike
haki.
harder than ever before. But the most important thing he learned was advanced Conqueror's haki. Ace was already in.
But I would say if Ace survived and joined Luffy on Ruskaina, Ace would definitely be like beginning of Wano, or no, not beginning, like Luffy Wano level, but when Luffy was on the roof. So right before he got Gear 5. That would probably be how strong Ace would be out after the time skip. Because Ace was way stronger than Luffy. We just didn't see him use haki because he was a cocky little bastard. That's pretty much the reason. Even though we know he knew haki. So
Incredibly strong, and by training under Rayleigh, he quickly polished himself to a peak he hadn't reached before. A year passed, and Ace had transformed into something far greater than the man who had once charged foolishly after Blackbeard. One night, as a storm raged over Ruskaina, a ship appeared over the horizon, and Ace recognized that Marco was on top of it. Ace greeted Marco, and after a meal, he told everyone that their territory was being taken over by Blackbeard, and that they would have to push back if they wanted to stand a chance.
Get the
They needed to
payback
get
war
payback
going.
for what Blackbeard
All
had
right,
done.
I see
Blackbeard
it.
had risen too far, too fast. He had taken Whitebeard's powers, his territories, and his throne as an emperor. But the remnants of Whitebeard's crew would not let that stand. They would gather every last one of their allies. Ace didn't hesitate at all, even though Luffy didn't want to send his brother alone. But Ace somehow convinced Luffy that he'd be back because he had one last debt to repay. The two had gotten closer than anyone else after the year they spent together. Just like their childhood, but Ace had to repay the debt he owed to Whitebeard and his crew. He had been given a second chance at life, and he would use it to burn Blackbeard from existence. The New World trembled as the Whitebeard pirates and their allies gathered, preparing for the battle that would determine the fate of their legacy. Their banners flew high, their spirits burned with vengeance, and at their front stood Port Gus D. Ace, his flames roaring brighter than ever. Across the seas, Blackbeard awaited them.
would Ace be enough to really beat Blackbeard at this point in the story? So this Ace in this What If has advanced Conqueror's haki. He's pretty much mastered his devil fruit to probably almost awakening it, right? And then he's been trained with Rayleigh in all three forms of haki to like a more degree. Because we know he knows haki, but like Rayleigh can really refine those skills, you feel me? Is that enough though to beat Blackbeard? I'm not sure. But we don't really know how strong Blackbeard is. Because I would say an Ace with that much training is equal to Law, Kid, and Luffy at the boat right before Luffy awakened Gear 5. And Kid got one shot by Shanks. Law lost to Blackbeard. So can he really hang? I'm not sure.
A twisted grin
I feel like he would still
lose. He
lose.
claimed the title of emperor, taking Whitebeard's throne, his lands, and his power. But he knew the past had come knocking. Marco, Jozu, Vista, and the last warriors of the Whitebeard pirates were coming. And at their lead, the man who should have died in Marineford, the son of Roger, the heir to Whitebeard, the second coming of fire. The battlefield was set. A desolate island in the New World, its skies covered in storm clouds, the air thick with tension. Both fleets arrived, their ships forming an iron wall on the sea. The war began with an earth-shaking clash, as cannon fire and hockey-infused blows tore through the battlefield. Ace led the charge, his conqueror's hockey exploding outward, knocking out weaker pirates by the hundreds. His flames surged around him, a living inferno tearing through the battlefield. Marco clashed with Shiryu of the Rain, their battle a whirlwind of talons and steel. Jozu faced Avalo Pizarro, their blows shaking the very ground. Vista dueled against Lafitte, swordplay meeting devilish trickery. But the true battle was set in the heart of the island. Ace stood before Blackbeard, the past looming over them. Blackbeard's grin widened, his body shrouded in the void of the Yami Yami no Mi. He raised his hands, the very gravity of the world bending toward him. Ace's flames roared in defiance, and
Another thing, do the Whitebeard pirates at this point really got the numbers to hang with the Blackbeard pirates? Because Blackbeard got 10 Titanic captains. Now, he might not have Kuzan at this point, because I feel like this is only like a year into the time skip, and Kuzan joins like right before the time skip ends. And so at this point, he has at least 9 Titanic captains who can really box. Now, the combined forces of the Whitebeard pirates might be able to handle them. But really, as long as Blackbeard dies, I feel like it'll be straight.
the battle was so amazing that it looked like the entire sky was shaking. Each attack was a clash of darkness and fire. Blackbeard's Yami Yami no Mi swallowed the flames, pulling Ace toward him. But Ace was not the same man from Bonaro Island. He countered with advanced conqueror's hockey, coating his body with sheer willpower, refusing to be dragged in. His flames became compressed, striking like spears, bypassing the abyss and burning through Teach's defenses. But Blackbeard was no fool. With a grin, he unleashed the power of the Gura Gura no Mi, shattering the ground with a single punch. The very air fractured, the force sending Ace hurtling backward. Ace refused to stay down. He rose, his body battered, but his spirit unbroken. His fire burned hotter, brighter, pushing past its limits. The fight dragged on, each blow a titanic clash, but Blackbeard was still stronger. Ace's vision blurred. His body screamed in agony because of how strong Blackbeard was. He had two of the strongest devil fruits the world had ever seen, and now it was getting incredibly difficult for Ace to keep up, despite all the time he had spent training. But then, something inside Ace shifted. His fire began to expand and get hotter. It started becoming blue and turning the ground.
I call it an awakening. Now, would his fire turn blue? I mean, it might. I don't think it really matters because, like, visually, I don't think, like, the hottest fire is white. So it really doesn't matter what his fire, what the color of the fire is for real.
Beneath him to molten glass. His devil fruit had awakened. The battlefield turned
His
into
hat
a
turned blue
sun-scorched
too.
wasteland. The very
That's
clouds
hilarious.
in the sky burned away, revealing a crimson sun above the battlefield. Ace stood at its center, his body wreathed in blue flames. His fingers flickered with white-hot embers, capable of incinerating even the strongest hockey. He rushed Teach faster than ever before. His blows now carried the weight of both flame and hockey-infused destruction. Blackbeard screamed as his darkness was burned away, his body charred and broken. For the first time, the great Blackbeard pirate trembled. But Teach was a monster. He endured. He laughed even through the pain. His Yami Yami no Mi suppressing Ace's devil fruit, his Gura Gura no Mi breaking the earth itself. The battle waged on for a long time, and Ace knew that he would.
I mean, as long as Ace has Conqueror's Haki and can, use his advanced Conqueror's Haki to, hurt Blackbeard with it, Blackbeard has no answer unless he has Conqueror's Haki as well. But, like, I don't know. I don't know if he has it or not for real.
Would Luffy at a disadvantage the longer they fought. Even with his awakening, he was not enough. But Ace had decided that he would repay the debt that Whitebeard left him with and take vengeance on the man who took so much from him. Not just that, he knew that if Blackbeard was left alive, then eventually he would go after his brother too. He refused to let Teach walk away alive. Ace took a deep breath. The flames around him contracted, his aura dimming for just a moment. And then he suddenly ignited and became like a blinding sun. His very life force burned away, his flames reaching a temperature beyond anything seen before. His hair turned to golden fire, his eyes burned like twin stars. The battlefield became daylight, the sky turning from black to blinding white. Blackbeard sweated as he stumbled backward and unleashed both his powers to the extreme. But even his darkness couldn't contain this anymore. Ace's final attack would be his last. He charged, his fists coated in Conqueror's Haki, infused with the last of his existence. He struck Blackbeard dead in the chest and completely erased the middle of his body. The villain screamed as his body was engulfed in pure, unrelenting heat. His flesh peeled away, his bones turned to ash. In a blinding flash of fire, Blackbeard was gone.
Now my
But
goat
as the
did
light
it.
began
He
to
slimed
dim,
them
the
out.
remaining Whitebeard pirates realized that he wasn't the only
But
one. Ace looked at them,
yeah,
but the
Ace is
fading
probably
light
gonna
revealed
die.
nothing. His grin was all they saw before the light vanished, leaving behind just a pile of ash. Marco collapsed to his knees, staring at the spot where Ace had once stood. Jozu.
I'm not even gonna lie, the fact that we got the chance to rewrite One Piece and Ace still died, that shit makes me sad. Ace is my favorite character. I want him to live. I'm sorry, I want him to live. I don't want him to die again. But whatever.
Clenched
Whatever.
his fists, his diamond form cracking. The crew that had fought so hard, that had come for vengeance, now found themselves in mourning. They had won, but at what cost? The world would soon hear of it. The death of Blackbeard, the vengeance of the Whitebeard pirates. But more than anything, they would hear of Porcus D. Ace, the man who became the sun and burned away the darkness.
Fire
But Luffy
Fist
was the
Ace,
first
the
to get the
goat.
memo. On the same night in Rusakaina, Luffy stood alone, staring at the darkened sky. The jungle around him was silent, the usual sounds of beasts nowhere to be heard. And then a sharp pain stabbed through his chest. Luffy staggered, clutching his shirt. His breathing grew erratic, his instincts screaming at him. His hand, almost trembling, reached into his pocket, pulling out Ace's Viver card. The paper was burning away. His grip tightened, but no matter how much he willed it to stop, the Viver card continued to disintegrate. His brother's life was fading. Rayleigh, watching from afar, saw Luffy's expression change. The moment he had feared had come. Without hesitation, Luffy bolted. He didn't know where, and he didn't care where. He just ran as fast as his legs could take him. Rayleigh followed, knowing there was no stopping him now. Days passed, and the world whispered of a great battle, the war between the remnants of Whitebeard's fleet and Blackbeard's crew. The news had spread far and wide of the war that would be known as the Payback War. But Luffy wasn't concerned with that. When he arrived at the funeral, the atmosphere was heavy. The surviving members of the Whitebeard pirates stood solemnly, their faces carved with grief. Marco, Jozu, Vista, and the rest of the crew had gathered on a quiet island, far from the eyes of the world. Ace's grave stood next to Whitebeard's. Two men who had shaped history now rested side by side. Luffy stood before the grave, his straw hat casting a shadow over his eyes. His breath was shaky, his fists clenched so tight they trembled. Marco approached him, his usual carefree expression replaced with one of deep sorrow. He placed a gentle hand on Luffy's shoulder and told him how Ace had avenged their
Why did he
crew
choose
and their
that
father.
ugly ass
His grip
picture
on
of
his hat
Marco?
tightened. His chest ached. He thought back to everything, their childhood, the laughter, the adventures, the promise to never die. And yet, Luffy took a deep breath and stepped forward, kneeling before Ace's grave. For the longest time, and he said nothing. And then finally, he spoke. He told Ace that he was going to become the king of the pirates. That was his promise to Ace. The wind blew gently, carrying the embers of a dying fire into the sky, and though there was no response, Luffy felt something warm, as if just for a moment Ace had heard him. The fire of the will of D would never go out. Make sure to subscribe and smash the like button for more One Piece video.
I'm not gonna lie, I really fuck with this guy's videos, bro. What's his name again? Facadify, bro. Recently subscribed. You know, I fuck with his videos. I really like this. I'm probably gonna watch more, react more to what these One Piece. What else? I love One Piece. One Piece is it's my shit. I love that shit. Ace is my favorite character. I don't like the fact that you made him die again, Facadify. Like, what the hell? But you know, you always big ups to Ace. And until next time, peace and love.
Copyright strikes. I really don't like copyright strikes. Copyright strikes. I really don't like.